So, you're a business owner dedicated to the significant and sustainable growth of both you and your business. Welcome to the Add a Zero podcast.
Hello, I'm Jay Allen. Welcome to the Add a Zero podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about the recruitment, the retention, and the reward of your staff. Now, it doesn't matter which business or sector or industry you're in. It doesn't matter as to whether you're a small startup or a more established, medium-sized business. One of the biggest challenges that a business owner faces is in being able to maintain their existing workforce, to be able to ensure that that workforce is remaining efficient and effective in being able to move and grow the business forward, and to attract new talents to be able to continue to fill the vacancies that we create, and sometimes that eventual churn rate of either retirement or ill health or people that are choosing to be able to leave and move elsewhere. Interestingly enough, you've only got to look at some statistics to see that 71% of people who leave their current employment go and do exactly what it was that they were doing for you for somebody else. You see, 71% of people who leave work don't leave work. They leave the environment in which they worked within. There was actually a study done by Gant and by De Montfort University. There you go, I'm scratching at my brain cells there. But there was a joint study done by Gant and De Montfort University back in 2016, I think it was, where they interviewed employees of companies that had been voted and won one of the top 100 businesses in the world to work for. Every year, the Financial Times does a pamphlet, a handout, if you like, a takeout from their newspaper on the top companies in the world to work within. And as you can imagine, Apple and Disney and Coca-Cola or Microsoft are always in the top 10, 15 companies. And it goes on to list 100 companies across the world where it's deemed a good place to work. Well, De Montfort took it a stage further, and rather than looking at the company and the vision and the values and the culture, they went into the companies and interviewed the employees. They surveyed the people that had nominated where they work as the best place in the world to work, to establish, well, what is it? What is it that you're doing that nobody else is doing, and why is it that the employees are so loyal? Not only do they work well together, but they're now nominating and volunteering this as the best place in the world to work. And they came up with a whole list of different answers and suggestions that they then correlated and put into a table, and in tabular format they were able to show the top 11 most commonly answers to those 17,000 odd people that had completed the survey. Now, first of all, it's interesting, or at least I find it interesting, why the top 11 and not the top 10. Surely the top 10 reasons why you should be at this place or that place. But no, it was the top 11 reasons, and I'm going to share one or two of those with you in a second. But if you're interested, if you're engaged, if you've got every intent of being able to not just grow, but scale your business, one of the things that we need to be able to do repetitively well is recruit and retain and reward the people that are helping us to be able to achieve that. Certainly within My True North, my own coaching company, our mission is to eradicate unemployment in this country by supporting more and more and more SMEs to scale up their business, that collectively we generate more new roles than there are those actively seeking employment. I want to be able to help you to be able to grow your business so significantly that it creates 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 new roles, and then how to be able to recruit and retain the right people within them that allows you to be able to achieve that Add a Zero result. One of the top of those 11 reasons, the fourth reason The fourth most common reason why more than 17,000 people said that this is a great place to work is management acknowledge mistakes and don't suffer fools. Management acknowledge mistakes and don't suffer fools. What does that mean? So when we look through all of the data as to they use to correlate and collect this, we realise that people are saying that businesses that do well, that employees really engage with, are the ones where there isn't a them and us, a white collar, blue collar, where management are part of the business, where we are all in it together as a team. And it doesn't matter how big or small you are, or whether you're on one site or multiple sites, to be able to understand the importance, particularly at a time where through COVID and lockdown, there's been a lot of opportunities to be able to work remotely or work from home, to understand the importance of team and team development, and being able to pull everyone together, that we're all working towards the right outcome. And once we've achieved those outcomes, those milestones, that everyone within the business will benefit and see the results of that. Be able to create a single team culture that allows us to be able to work collectively and collaboratively to move the needle in the right direction. And then, so to understand that management accept mistakes. You see, there's nothing worse than working for a boss or working for a company where if you get something wrong, you're blamed and chastised and there's disciplinaries floating around all over the place. Whilst we know full well that the business has made some mistakes and errors in the past, but if it's a management thing, then it's just swept under the table and forgotten about, and we'll move on from that as if it never happened. Acknowledging when to put your hands up and saying, do you know what? We made a mistake there, we got it wrong. This is what we're doing about it. It's not just about being able to be a team and one and collectively. It's about showing that we're all human. It's about allowing us to be able to make those mistakes and to learn from them. Surely, there is no failure. It's only ever feedback. And if we can feed into the loop and share that we're also learning and we're also being able to move the needle, we're testing and trying new ideas in order to be able to achieve what it is that we set out to achieve, makes us more likely to be accepted and seen as a good boss than it would be if we just swept things under the table and forgot about it, and that still pretended or expected other people to work to rule, as it were. The first most common reason why somebody voted as the best place in the world to work is it didn't matter how many people were in the business, they still feel that they were treated and acknowledged as an individual. That it wasn't the marketing team, sales do, finance do. Yes, as a business, we've got roles and responsibilities, but as individuals, we have attitudes and behaviours. And we need to be able to acknowledge that our business is made up of a whole series of different characters with strengths and weaknesses that can bring opportunities and at times bring threats. But it's only when we start to treat people, as individuals, as understanding how do I best support you to be the best that you can be? What do you need from this business in order that you can flourish, to turn it from a job into a career? And one of the ways that we encourage people within Adazeros to be able to do this is to create not only your current structural chart, but to go one step further and create your future organisational structural chart. Not just the roles and responsibilities of where we are now, but where we're heading. The goals and the roles of the jobs that don't exist yet, but will as we continue to grow and develop. The one other thing I wanted to quickly share with you about this study before we get into the recruit, retain and reward section is the 11th reason. Now, like I said, over 17,000 people surveyed. The most common answers catalogued and then correlated into a tabular format and then put in order of frequency or an order of priority. The 11th most common reason that employees said that this is the best place to work was salary. The top 10 reasons, none of them cost money. Not one of the top 10 reasons are going to cost you $1, a dime, a cent, a pound, a shilling, a penny to implement. It takes the 11th reason before somebody says it's a good salary. And what I want you to take from this is when the money's enough, and we'll come back to this in a second, but when the money is enough, it ceases to be the driver for the employee within the business. Once they've got the recognition, once they've got the right kit and equipment, once they're working in the right environment, once they're part of a team, once the boss isn't a dragon that is dogmatic or authoritarian, once all of the other stuff's in place, salary isn't the driver. And yet the majority of business owners believe that in order to get people to work harder, you've got to pay them more. And that's not the case. I'm not saying that salary isn't important, because there's that word enough. And the moment salary isn't enough, it becomes the first and primary reason why somebody leaves job and moves elsewhere, possibly to your competition. So what is enough? Well, interestingly, there's a book of the same name, What is Enough? ? Which gives you an opportunity, not only as a business owner, to establish what is your enough, but would also help us to understand as to how our employees evaluate what is enough for them. Let me give you a quick example of a client I've been working with recently. He has a number 2 in his business. The operations manager in his business is the person that in his business is the day-to-day deliverer, the manager of the day-to-day operations within his business. Whenever the owner is on holiday, the number 2 is the signatory for the business. There's a great synergy and relationship between the two of them. And yet, over the last 6, 7, 8 months, things have become particularly difficult between the two of them. The work still gets done. The operations manager is still being very efficient. But there seems to have, that friendship, that bond seems to have been strained over the last 7 or 8 months or so, to the extent that it was almost an unwritten work to rule that's been happening before I got involved with the client. And eventually he shared his concerns with me and said, I just don't know what's going on. I really need to understand as to what's happened and why the relationship's gone from a really good, friendly, close-knit team to this turn up, show up, do the work, go home type relationship. And I'm not quite sure why. So we went through a series of exercises and looked at visions and values and culture and understanding as to all of the things that it might be. And eventually we end up sat and having a conversation to understand as to what's going on. Just help me to understand as to how do we get from where we were to where we are now, and where's that going to leave us if we don't resolve it shortly? Well, I've got engaged. Great, congratulations. I know that you've been with this girl for a while. It's wonderful to hear she's from New Zealand. Okay, and we're thinking about going to live in New Zealand. Okay. This role wouldn't allow for remote working, particularly from the other end of the world. I understand that all of a sudden your priorities have changed and it's now become a job, not a career. Is there any particular reason as to why? Is it that she's homesick? Is it that well, she can earn more money in New Zealand than she can in the UK. She loves working here and she loves a job, but she can earn more money in New Zealand. So we're thinking about possibly going to live over there. Okay, but you've got engaged, so there's the plans to get married. Oh yes, I'd have to get married in order for me to go and live over there. I wouldn't be able to work over there. I haven't got the right points or visas or whatever else it is. I would only be able to go over there and work if I was married. We're talking about marrying later on this year, so we have that as an opportunity. Right, okay, so this is the one, this is the lady that you intend to spend the rest of your life with, and you've got an engagement already, and you're about to get married, and the potential, she loves her job, you really enjoy your job, but she might be moving her back over there because she could earn more money. You're not going to be earning over there unless you're married. What are you going to do? Well, I'd have to pick up X, Y, and Z, and this and the other type of thing. Okay. How about if we restructured your role and we were able to look at a little bit of flexi time, but also we might have to ask you to take on a little bit more responsibility, but we could then review your salary accordingly. And it might be that you could earn significantly more in this business than you currently are if you were to take on some new roles and responsibilities according with that new requirement that would more than compensate for the amount of money that she could otherwise earn if she was to go back home to go. Could we do that? I'm sure we'd both love to do it because she loves her job. And all of a sudden, he was back on board again. And all we then needed to do was to work through as to what would the business requirement be in order for him to be able to earn a significantly larger salary. What else would he need to do? What are some of the things that he's going to stop doing and pass on to somebody else in the business? All of a sudden, he was back on board again. So salary has to be enough to meet the requirements of the individual. Otherwise, it becomes a burning issue. Let me give you another, perhaps a simpler example. I had a member of staff come to me earlier this year that asked for, Jay, is there any possible chance I could have a £4,000 pay rise? Well, in itself, £4,000 a jump, but it's not insurmountable. It might have been manageable. But I can't take this in isolation. I've got to give considerations to, well, if I give you £4,000 pay rise, have I got to now equate that to £4,000 pay rise for the rest of my staff? Have I got to give a £4,000 per head increase across the board? What else are you going to do for the £4,000 extra that I'm going to pay you? Where's that extra money going to come from? Because it's certainly not just going to magic itself from profits. What else are you going to give me in return for a different income reimbursement? And how will that reflect across the rest of the business? Just out of curiosity, why £4,000? That's a very specific amount of money. Was there something that you had in mind? I've fallen in love with this house. I've always wanted to buy this house. We've applied for a mortgage and I don't quite earn enough to be able to be considered for that amount of mortgage. I'd love to be able to buy it, but I've got to earn more money to be able to do so. Aha! And here lies the key. You see, the benefit in sharing with me that he wants to be able to buy a mortgage, he wants to take out a mortgage and buy the home of his dreams, which ironically is almost walking distance from our offices, tells me that one, he intends to live local for a long time to come. He wants to be able to commit to being here rather than rental, a month's notice, and he might have gone somewhere else. And he sees working with us as a means of being able to achieve not just a house, but a home he's always loved. So how do I make the £4,000 possible for him in order for him to be considered for a mortgage that he is now financially committed to living close by to the business from a business that is already paying him in order to be able to pay off his mortgage? It makes so much more sense to me now to be able to work with him, to be able to try and find that opportunity that, well, at the moment, you're only on a 28-hour contract. If we were to increase you to a 35-hour contract, it's likely to give you about 3,700, 3,800 more basic, but we might also be able to look at a bonus structure if you were able to take on a little bit of additional responsibility. How would you feel about X or Y or Z on top of your current role? Jay, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much. When could I do that? When could I get started? And all of a sudden, I've gone from the risk of somebody potentially applying for going to work for a competitor and then challenging them on salary to see if he could try and renegotiate a better package, to somebody that's fully committed to remaining in my business ready to be able to take out a large financial commitment reliant on the salary that I provide him. It's only when we know our staff as individuals that we can understand what is enough for them and how else do we recognise the reward the jobs that they bring and the work that they do for us. So one of the things that we do within My True North, and I'm not suggesting that all of you would want to choose to do this, but one of the things that we choose to do as a business is that we share some of the financial numbers within our business. Now, it's not the cash flow forecast that everyone can log in and see on a day-to-day basis, but there are some financial numbers that we share within our business with all of our staff, not just the sales team or the marketing team or finance, but across the entire business. This is where we are as a business. This is where we would like to be as a business. This is how it contributes towards our business goals. And this is how that relates to you and your career with us, not just your job. And by tying the full thing full circle, by showing the contribution that they make and the impact it has on both the business and collectively how that will then reflect back on them and their career and their salary and their bonus structure, determines that we regularly have staff that are, my cousin's just finished university, he's just qualified in X, Y and Z. I wanted to know whether we might have a role for them in the future. Could they send their CV to you? My sister's just been made redundant. She used to do so-and-so and so-and-so. I wonder if she could apply for a job. We regularly receive recommendations, referrals, CVs from other members of the staff who are keen to bring other people within their network, within their family, to come and work within our business. To recruit and retain and reward a growing team of superheroes, you have to learn how to become a servant leader. What I mean by that is the moment that you have an employee, you are compelled to do whatever's necessary to help and support them to become a better version of themselves, both personally and professionally. And the more time you spend getting to know your staff, getting to know about them, not just what they do for you, the more you can ensure that the reward that they get, both financial and otherwise, is so specific that it's not comparable with a competitor when they come knocking on the door. We've got a phenomenal, and I say this with wholeheartedly and very confidently, we have an incredible package called Recruit, Retain, Reward that's enabled us to be able to generate more than 400 new jobs in the last couple of years alone, supporting clients to be able to grow and evolve and retain some of the best talent that we've been able to find out there. And I'd love for you to be able to benefit from it also as part of our mission to be able to eradicate unemployment in this country. Get in touch, and I'd love to be able to chat with you further about how to be able to grow your existing team. God bless, take care. Until next week, I'll see you soon.
That's all for this episode. As always, we really thank you for listening and welcome your comments, thoughts, and suggestions. So please do drop us a line by emailing podcast@mytruenorth.biz. And don't forget, if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button on whichever platform you're listening to this through. And tell your colleagues and business network all about who we are. You've been listening to the Add a Zero podcast presented by Jay Allen. Brought to you in association with My True North, the UK's leading ethical coaching company.